Would you look at this mess? What kind of a sharpening bench is this? You couldn't get anything done on this thing if you tried. Well, not so fast. We're not working tonight. We're teaching. I'll tell you what I mean. Stay tuned, guys. Hi gang, Rob here. It's the evening of 26 March 2014, and this mess is with a purpose. And if you've seen any of my videos since I built the new sharpening bench, it really never looks this cluttered, and the clutter is all part of a master plan tonight. I have I guess this is going to be a series of videos we're starting tonight, and it's kind of going to be well, it's going to be knife school for the new knife hobbyist. I guess it's pretty daunting to get into the knife hobby and start buying some blades, and you watch YouTube videos and reviews and sharpening videos, and it can be pretty daunting. And I was reminded of that by my subscriber, sharpening customer, and Christian brother Scott, for whom I sharpened a Benchmate 940 a few months ago. And when he got it back, he was curious. Scott is a pretty smart guy, and he's new to the knife hobby, not a young guy, but he's got a lot of questions. And he wrote, after he got his 940 back, had it for a few days, and he asked me some things about caring for it, and I gave him kind of a quick response. And he wrote me back today a few months later, and here's what he said. Hey Rob, a while back I inquired about care for my 940 after the TheApostleP Edge was put on. You briefly commented and then suggested you may go into more detail about edge and knife care for knife rookies by myself. You even suggested a video to show it. In my opinion, that would be fantastic. And then Scott wrote a couple more emails today. I'm going to share with you the end of this one after I give you the premise. But he gave me some guidance on what he'd like to see, and I think it's pretty cool. He says, I wanted to give you subscriber feedback as I am fairly new to the channel and to other YouTube channels as well. In relation to my ABC 1, 2, 3 questions, I personally find learning better in small chunks versus larger. Easy to watch, digest, and retain, as I am very busy most of the time and don't have time to watch long vids. Your video length now is good. That means they must be shorter lately. I also really like Cody Crone's vids, that's Wrangler Star, as well, as he breaks them down into approximately 10-minute episodes. I think mainly because of his upload speed. Actually, I know Cody fairly well, and that is not just a function of upload speed, it's because he knows that's what length video gets watched, and he's kind of a YouTube scientist. Okay, Scott goes on, I also like to watch Nothing Fancy channel, but frankly his content and education is great, but his vids are way too long, and I find myself having to scroll back and forth to glean information I fail to pick up and have to watch them in chunks because of interruptions in my schedule. Ideally 10 to 15 minutes is perfect, 20 plus is too long. Under 10 is too short, leaves me wanting a bit more. Okay, now to the important part. I believe my ABC 1, 2, 3 questions are basic rookie things I want to know as a knife owner, but most of the knife vids on YouTube assume we know the basics already. So maybe an TheApostleP 101 series? And he says, I've taken up a lot of your reading time today. Thanks for letting me share and for your channel. It's a great learning experience. Scott. Okay, so it's because of Scott's prodding that we're kind of embarking on this series. I guess we could call it TheApostleP 101 if he wants to. But here are the first questions we're going to tackle, because I'm going to try to keep this video under 15 minutes. Okay, first set of questions. Number 1, proper maintenance of a knife with relation to knife type and steel type. I now have 2 SEs of toad stickers, a Benchmade 940, and a Bushcraft Spyderco. Okay, that might be 15 minutes by itself, but we'll see. Number 2, best tools, oils, and other products to own to maintain the knife well at my home. And 3, what determines when a knife needs to be sent back for a redo of the TheApostleP edge? Thanks much, and I look forward to the education in whatever form or forms you desire to teach it. Kindest regards, your brother in Christ, Scott. Okay, let's talk about knife type and steel type and how we care for it first, because that's pretty simple. First of all, fixed blade knives, and I only have one of them sitting here, and it's this little tiny Boker Dashi, and this is made out of 440C steel. But I'm just showing this because I have it handy. Actually, I have another one handy. Yeah, let me grab this. Oh. This is a good one to illustrate the point as well. Now, we're not talking about steel type right off the bat. We're going to talk about knife type. Fixed blade knives. Here's a little Dashi. And here is a Benchmade Bushcrafter. This one was sold in the Toad Sticker benefit sale, purchased by Campfire Talk. It's here at the bench for sharpening and review before I send it on to send it down to Dixie. So, fixed blade knives, care. It is best because sheaths can gather moisture in humid environments. Even if the knife is stainless steel, it's best to store fixed blades apart from their sheaths with some kind of preservative, oil of your choice. A lot of people today are using frog lube because it is an organic, food-safe product. Any kind of oil or fat can preserve a fixed blade knife. This knife is S30V. It doesn't really need much preserving, but any steel, even stainless steels, will rust. So if given the right conditions. So fixed blades, I say keep them out in the air. Do not enclose them in a sheath, and keep some kind of oil on. Whether it be frog lube, WD-40, animal tallow, gun oil, doesn't really matter. Just use something to put a barrier between the moisture in the air and the knife blade. Folders. Here's what I have found. I've got kind of a variety sitting here. I got this Guardian Tactical Patron in CPM 154, which is a powdered stainless steel. I've got my Benchmate 710 D2 steel. Victorinox, their stainless steel is kind of proprietary, but it's a very stainless, not super hard steel. And then I've got Campfire Talk's new Sodbuster, GEC Sodbuster. What a beauty. In 01 tool steel. Now here's kind of the rust spectrum. The Victorinox really rust resistant, but you're going to keep that knife oiled anyway because it's a slip joint and the mechanism likes to be oiled. The Guardian Tactical Patron in CPM 154, not really going to rust. That's a knife you can probably leave naked. The Benchmate 710 in D2. D2 is an air hardening near stainless tool steel, about 12% chromium. It will rust in humid or salty environments. In my environment in Northeast Indiana, pretty temperate and fairly dry. This knife has never been kept oiled. It's about 4 years old, maybe 5. Not a mark on it. This Sodbuster in 01, this steel is going to be about like 1095 for corrosion resistance. You definitely want to keep some oil on it. Plain carbon steels. This is a high carbon, low alloy tool steel. Oil hardening. Now, again, preserving oils, unless you've got super harsh environments, it doesn't really matter. If you want to be food safe, use frog lube, WD works, gun oil works. Now, do not confuse preserving oils or preserving treatments with lubrication, because they're not always the same thing. For instance, WD-40 Makes a really bad lubricant if you leave it sit over time. It's not bad if you reapply it all the time and it dissolves what parts of it dry out or congeal. But it will dry out and congeal. And that kind of brings us to a large, huge question. If you are kind of a knife nut, even if you're a novice but you're really into your knives and you maintain them a lot, don't get too hung up on what kind of lubricating oil to use, because you're gonna redo it a lot. If you use a knife once a year and you want to pick it up and have it have free action, then you need to be a little more concerned about it. So if you're a frequent maintainer, here's kind of what I say: don't spend a lot of money on lubricants. This is a old bottle of Hoppy's No. 9 gun oil. I've used it a lot over the years, never had a problem with it. My current darling, One All's Pup, John turned me onto this stuff. I've used this so much it's about more than half empty. It is Daiwa Real Oil. It is a very light synthetic oil designed for bearings and fishing reels. It works great in knife pivots. It has superb lubricity, low viscosity. You don't need much of it. It seems to hang on forever. It never gums up. It's just great stuff. Here's what's a bad idea, and I'm going to get killed in the comments for this, but there are many these modern, space age lubricants. They call them solid lubricants or dry film lubricants. That may be the most famous of which this day and age is Tough Glide. This is a particulate lubricant that's suspended in a solvent. It comes out as a liquid. It's got some kind of binding agent in it, and when the solvent dries, you're left with this coating of particulate lubricant sort of dried onto the surface. There are many knife mechanisms that do not like this stuff. There are a few that do, but I had this in a Spyderco Domino overnight, and it sounded like a rusty gate after this stuff dried. I had to flush it out of there and go to the Daiwa Real Oil to make the knife work right. Stay away from this stuff. It's expensive, it's unnecessary technology, and sometimes it causes more problems than it solves. I know there are you guys out there who have great luck with it. I'm not one of them. I don't recommend it. Just don't need it, for one thing. So again, WD-40, not a great lube, pretty decent preserving oil, and not a bad cleaner. It also makes titanium look really good. All Chris Reeve knives, before they're put in the boxes and shipped, are sort of wiped down with WD-40. It makes them look super. Okay, that's about it for that. Cleaners. Again, WD works great as a cleaner. Rubbing alcohol works really well as a cleaner. For degreasing, like if you're getting a pivot screw ready to put back together with Loctite, which we'll talk about in a little bit, the best thing I've found is acetone, or if you're married, guys, or if you're a woman watching this, fingernail polish remover is a great degreaser. It really gives you a nice dry surface to apply the Loctite to. Another good cleaner, Zippo lighter fluid or even charcoal lighter. They're not great degreasers if you're going with a Loctite product because they do leave an oily residue. But for cleaning out a pivot, cleaning washers prior to lubrication, it works great. Another thing that works well for general knife cleaning of the handle and such, good old Windex, which I keep in a little small spray bottle that used to have Flitz gun and knife cleaner in it. Now, what implements are you going to need for all this cleaning and maintenance? Well, generally paper towels or soft terry cloth cotton towels. Invaluable in this regard are cotton swabs. I get those inside the handle. Sometimes they work best if you kind of smash them down. Kind of smash them down a little bit, flatten them so they get inside a knife handle a little better. Old toothbrush sometimes works great. Another thing you're going to need for knife maintenance is, in this day and age, almost every folding knife, until you get to some of the expensive production knives or customs, you're going to need a kit of mini Torx Drivers. This little set from Radio Shack I just got a few weeks ago. It's got some other stuff in it too. From here over are mini Torx. This one is T5 through, let's get T5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 15, I think. The most common ones you're going to need are T6, 8, 9, and 10. T6 is going to handle most of your body and clip screws. T8 and 9 will be some body screws. And T8, 9, 10 are going to be pivot screws. Let me give you an idea of some to stay away from. Lowe's sells the Cobalt brand. This little driver has it stores in the handle. Some of the bits, they're all double-ended. It's a pretty good array of bits. However, these are made in China and they are not hard. Your smaller sizes, the teeth are going to shear off them right away. The larger sizes work okay. The driver's pretty cool because it sort of spins on your hand. This cap stays free. But I've noticed this rubber grippy pad, it just moves all over and it's kind of a pain. Not recommended. The one Home Depot sells the Husky, worse than that. School's still out on the Radio Shack kit. I haven't used it hard enough to be able to tell you how well it works. Here's the best one I've ever found, no kidding. This is that little keychain Kershaw tool. I've had this so long you can barely read what it says anymore. It only comes with a T6, a T8, and a Phillips. The bits store in the handle. And the socket is magnetic. Holds the bit in. I wish it had more bits because this T6 is original to the tool. I've had this since 2009 and it still has sharp teeth. Never turns in a head. So these are like 10 bucks. You can buy them on eBay or anywhere. Sometimes if you have a warranty knife sent into Kershaw, they'll send you one for free. But guys, you need those. You need to be able to service your knives, adjust your pivots. Here's something else you're going to need. This is Permatex brand, but it's blue Loctite. Do not buy red. You need, oh, excuse me. You need extreme heat or a lot of torque to break red Loctite loose. And you're probably going to strip Torx heads if you try to use it. The blue applies good locking force, but it is serviceable. You can break it loose with no heat. But a pivot that is secured with this won't move if you get it clean and dry. Okay. Let's see. Okay, number one maintenance tool you're going to need, other than cleaning, lubrication, and adjustment, especially if I sharpen your folding knife. This is a Spyderco sharp maker. I've got the fine rods in it. They are set by the fixture at 20 degrees per side, or 40 degrees inclusive. They're very fine. They're great honing rods. People get frustrated with the sharp maker because they try to reprofile knives with it, and it's just not designed for that. It's great for touching up a factory edge that is ground at the same angle as the sharp maker. That's about it. But it's great for that application. Most of my folding knives that I sharpen, some are ground a little thicker and don't lend themselves to this geometry, but I do pretty much what Spyderco says they do from the factory, which is a 30 degree inclusive secondary bevel, 15 degrees per side, with the very tip of it at about 19 degrees. Now remember, the Spyderco sharp maker is 20 degrees per side. So when I'm done, that edge is sharp and it's at 19 degrees per side, 38 degrees inclusive. As it starts to go dull, the best thing you can have to maintain an edge I put on is that sharp maker with its 40 degree, 20 degree per side angle. It's going to put you right on the apex, a few strokes, and you are going to be dialed in. Because you know you're going to hit the apex of the edge. You're not grinding away the shoulders of the edge. I love the geometry of the edge I put on for utility, for durability, and for ease of touch-up. Doesn't have to be a sharp maker. The Lansky crock stick system is also set at that angle, I believe, and there may be some others. After that, For really good touch-ups, you need a leather strop. This is a two-sided leather strop with gray compound. This is that stick rouge type compound on the rough side and green on the fine side. Generally, if you do that on a regular basis, you won't even have to go to the sharp maker very often. If you strop regularly before your edge gets really dull, you don't need stones or sticks or anything for a long time. But when you see your knife start to become, when your sharp maker touched up bevel starts to get pretty broad and approaches maybe half the width of my secondary bevel, then it's time to think about sending it back to me to do a major resharpening on. But guys, you should be able to maintain and touch up these blades for a long time without sending them back to me. Let's see, what am I leaving out? That might be about it. That might be about it for tonight. Guys, weigh in the comments if you kind of want to see a show and tell about maybe that touch-up process or anything that we've sort of done an overview on in this video. Please let me know in the comments. I know Scott will. We'll have more topics on this, more topics in this series coming up soon. I just wanted to kind of kick this off and hit some basics. If you have any questions about what to buy, how to use it, do not hesitate to comment or send me a PM. And most of you guys who follow know my email address. That's all we have for tonight. Sorry, Scott, I'm at 22 minutes or so. I'll try to keep them shorter from here. Hope you all have a great night. Grace and peace, and remember, the word is sharp.